Change Starts at Home is a multi-component social behavior change program that combines traditional media, and for this we used a radio program and couples intervention with community mobilization. So the aim of the program is to prevent intimate partner violence among married couples in Nepal. The first phase was implemented in the three districts of Nepal, Chitwan, Nawalparasi and Kapilvastu, and then later on the other phases where for that we focused on one of those districts, right? So the program engages closely with married couples, as we said, their families and friends, and as well as it engages and mobilizes the key influencers at the community level, including community leaders and faith leaders.
So the impact of the Change program is a collection of findings over 3 phases. So our first phase was a cluster randomized trial in the 3 districts, as Binita mentioned, and we were striving to get a reduction in intimate partner violence at the community level. There were our core recipients of the intervention, which were listening, discussion, and action group members, which is the couples curriculum, as the couples intervention, as Binita mentioned. We found some good changes in violence and in our couples program participants, but we did not achieve impact at the community level. So that spurred us to take all of our learnings and put them into action into a pilot phase, and then the most recent iteration, which is phase 3, and we achieved our goal and exceeded it considerably. So we saw very nice reductions in intimate partner violence amongst the female participants. We also saw reduction in community members of those where the intervention was being delivered. And as we tried to be very intentional about diffusing the program beyond the intervention and the investment sites, then we also saw some delayed impacts in our neighboring control communities. So overall, these lessons that we've learned over the last 9 years of working on this project were, really showing up in our most recent phase.
It was really designed with SBC component at its heart, right? So because it used the media programming, the radio programming, which was used to highlight the most sensitive and important topics regarding violence and gender norms. And then we also had community-based groups, like groups of couples who went through a long intervention, 9 months long intervention. So whatever the messages that was highlighted by the radio program was reinforced in these group sessions and discussions and critical reflections. To elaborate more on how we did our couple session, like the intervention was actually divided into 3 distinct phases. So 9 months, for 9 months was our total duration. So first phase was the 3 months, first 3 months, which was more about critically reflecting on their own values and norms related to gender and violence. And once they've reflected on it and they had questions and they were ready to discuss further on that, the second phase helped to build life skills. So they were able to have those discussions with people close to them, but using life skills in a way that it's non-violent, and it led to more productive discussions and better relationship between the couples and in the family. And then the third phase that we had was more about community mobilization. So for these couples to go beyond these smaller groups and out to the wider community and start discussing what they learned or what they thought or what they reflected with the community members. So those were our 3 phases for the couples intervention.
So the program used a number of different SBC strategies. As Binita mentioned, social behaviour change is a key component of the program. So Number one was edutainment, obviously with the radio program that was at the heart of the curriculum. So the curriculum sessions reinforced and were the same messages that were in the radio program. Within the radio programming, another SBC strategy was role modeling. So we were able to role model conversations, dialogue, give listeners the actual words that they needed in order to utilize the sort of skills and strategies that we were giving them. So for example, we had one scene in the radio drama where a couple discussed consent before sex, and that's something that you can talk about in theory a lot, but really to have people understand how do you have that conversation, with your spouse in the bedroom. That really came through with the role modeling that we had in the radio program. So others saw them using these new behaviors, and that encouraged others in the community to adopt it because they also wanted, or to be curious as well about the changes that they were making. Other strategies that are sort of SBC grounded are also using training. So that was a key component. We didn't do one-off training sessions; those don't work. We built learning and training into the curriculum. So they had the couples had 40 weeks exposure to this curriculum, which built their skills in effective communication, listening to each other, managing their emotions, and having more peaceful and loving relationships. Another SBC strategy that we used was incentivization. So as part of the radio programming and also put through the social media as well as the couples groups, we had a campaign around Most Understanding Couple. This encouraged people to apply from the community. Then there was a lot of sort of buzz and appreciation created around these Most Understanding Couples. And finally, incentivization in the form of, within the diffusion component of the radio program, there were, each month we had appreciation events in the community. So couples would come together who had pledged to live violence-free, and local leaders and others in the community would come and celebrate them, and this was seen to incentivize others to copy that behavior.
The first tip is to take it very, very seriously, because the components, we have been developing this over 9 years, and as you've heard, there's many pieces to it, and they're very intentional. So really thinking about the level of adaptation is really thinking about how it fits into the context that you're working in. Some of the tips that I would recommend is one, really, really, really understanding the communities that you're working in at the ground level with the partners in the lead, understanding what is going on, how this program really would fit, and what really needs to be modified. Thinking about resources in terms of what type of media, what is a prevalent type of media in that particular area, because the radio itself wouldn't work everywhere. Also things to think about is, this was developed in a very collectivist type of community, which the group work makes a lot of sense, and a lot of the community organizations make sense in the activities, but that would not necessarily be the case in a much more individualistic society. So those were, I would think, some of the key learnings about, mistakes maybe we had made earlier, things we didn't know earlier, and stick with it. It's taken us many years to get it right.